I never thought my life would change so drastically in a single night. My hands were trembling as I grabbed my son Adan's small hand, and we both ran through that dark alley. My ex, Derek, was right behind us, and this time he wasn't just coming to yell. He was coming to take me back, no matter what it took. "Mummy, he's coming." Adan's voice shook with fear, but he didn't let go of my hand. I pulled him harder, my breath coming in sharp gasps. We rushed toward an empty warehouse where only darkness and silence waited. I pushed the door open and shoved Adan inside. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst right out of my chest. Then Derek's voice echoed from behind us. "Ryan, how long are you going to run from me? You're mine, and so is that kid." I turned around and stood in front of my son, shielding him with my body. "Derek, please, just leave. I don't want anything from you." But Derek laughed. He always laughed when he was being threatening. "You think you can escape me? I won't let you live if you stay away from me." I started backing away, but then the large warehouse door swung open. Everything stopped. Derek froze. I froze, because the man who walked in wasn't just any ordinary man. His height, his presence, everything about him screamed danger. Dressed in a black suit with a sharp jawline and eyes that could burn through anyone. 4 bodyguards followed behind him, but he alone was enough. This was probably his place. We had probably just trespassed. Derek looked confused for a moment, but then tried to crack a joke out of habit. "Is this your private party or something? We were just leaving." "No, you're not." The man's voice was so cold it sent chills down my spine. Derek tried to mock him. "Look, buddy, this is my business. This is my boyfriend and my—" "Liar." Everyone went silent. Because that voice, it was Adan's. My 4-year-old son, who had been hiding behind me until now, suddenly stepped forward. He looked at that dangerous man, then at Derek. "Mister? He's a bad man. Don't listen to him. He hits my mummy every day." My heart stopped. I tried to pull Adan back, but the man raised his hand, a signal to stop. He knelt down to Adan's level. For the first time, something soft appeared in his eyes. "What's your name, little one?" "Adan," my son said, scared but brave. The man placed his hand on Adan's head. "Adan, this man hits your mummy?" Adan nodded. "Yes. Mummy cries every day. I can't save him. I'm too small." The man looked at Derek. And in that one glance I knew Derek's game was over. I felt my legs nearly give out beneath me. This stranger, this terrifying man, was the first person who seemed to actually see what was happening. Not just hear it, but truly see it. Derek had always been good at hiding his violence from the world, playing the victim when anyone asked questions. But Adan's words cut through all of that. Derek's face had gone pale. His usual confidence was crumbling. I could see him calculating his next move, trying to figure out how to spin this situation in his favor. But the man in the black suit wasn't giving him any room to maneuver. The warehouse felt like it was closing in around us. The dim lighting cast long shadows across the concrete floor. I could hear water dripping somewhere in the distance, each drop echoing in the tense silence. My son's hand found mine again, his small fingers wrapping around 2 of my own. "Who are you?" Derek finally managed to ask, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. The man didn't answer right away. He stood up slowly, his full height imposing. One of his bodyguards stepped forward, and I noticed how synchronized their movements were. These weren't just hired muscle, they were trained professionals. "That's not the question you should be asking," the man said quietly. His voice was low but carried easily through the empty space. "The question is what happens next." I felt Adan press against my leg. Despite his bravery moments ago, he was still just a little boy. I wanted to pick him up, to run, to get us both out of this situation. But I was frozen, trapped between the man I'd been running from and this stranger who seemed equally dangerous. Derek tried to regain some control. "Look, there's been a misunderstanding. Ryan and I, we have our problems. But every couple does. This is private." "Private?" The man's tone changed, becoming sharper. "You beat him where his son can see. You chase him through the streets at night. You threaten his life. That stopped being private the moment you made it everyone's problem." How did he know all of that? Had he been watching us before we entered? My mind raced with questions, but I couldn't voice any of them. My throat felt tight. Derek's eyes darted toward the door, clearly measuring whether he could make a run for it. But the bodyguards had positioned themselves strategically. There was no easy exit. I think, the man continued, his hands sliding into his pockets in a casual gesture that somehow felt more threatening than if he'd pulled a weapon. You should leave now. And you should forget where Ryan lives. Forget his phone number. Forget he exists. You can't just. Derek started. I can. The man cut him off. And I will. There was something final in those words. Something that made it clear this wasn't a negotiation or a suggestion. Derek must have heard it too, because his shoulders slumped slightly. But I knew him well enough to recognize that look in his eyes. He wasn't giving up. He was just retreating for now. Fine, Derek said through gritted teeth. But this isn't over, Ryan. We'll talk about this when you come to your senses. There's nothing to talk about. I heard myself say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. We're done, Derek. We've been done for a long time. Derek's jaw clenched. He looked like he wanted to say more, to argue, to threaten. But one glance at the man in the black suit made him reconsider. With one last venomous look in my direction, he turned and walked toward the door. The bodyguards parted to let him pass, then followed him out. I heard Derek's footsteps echoing as he left the warehouse, growing fainter until they disappeared completely. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the man turned his full attention to me, and I felt the weight of his gaze. It wasn't hostile, but it was intense. Search, are you hurt? He asked. The question caught me off guard. After everything that had just happened, after the confrontation and the threats, he was asking if I was okay. I glanced down at Adan, who was looking up at the man with a mixture of awe and curiosity. I'm fine, I managed to say, though we both knew it wasn't entirely true. The bruises hidden under my sleeves told a different story. The man studied me for another moment, then nodded slowly. Come with me. We need to talk. Derek's voice trembled for the first time in years. Look, this is all a misunderstanding. I love him. He's just overreacting. Overreacting? The man took one step forward and Derek took 2 steps back. You let a child watch his father get beaten, and you call that overreacting? I heard the anger in his voice for the first time. And that anger, it wasn't directed at me. Derek pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead and try. One of the bodyguards stepped forward and snatched Derek's phone from his hand. Derek's courage completely shattered. I could see it written all over his face. He had always been the one to intimidate me, but today, he was the one who was terrified. Do you know who I am? The man asked, his hands settling into his pockets. Derek shook his head. No, Franklin Kingston. I felt my breath catch. I had heard that name before. The biggest name in the city's underworld. A crime boss. But until now, I thought those were just stories people told. Franklin looked at Derek like he was an insect. You beat a man until he ended up here. And you think I'm just going to let you walk away? Derek's hands came together in a pleading gesture. Please, I won't touch him again. I swear. Your word? Franklin didn't even try to smile. He signaled to his bodyguards. Take him. I'll decide what to do with him later. They dragged Derek away. His screams gradually faded into nothing. I finally took a breath. For the first time in so many days, Adan was still standing near Franklin, and Franklin, he was still crouched down at Adan's level. Your mummy is safe now, Adan, Franklin said with such gentleness, as if he were speaking to a frightened animal that needed comfort. Adan smiled. Thank you, mister. Franklin brushed his hand over Adan's head, then stood up and looked at me. And in that moment, I felt like he was seeing me for the first time. Really seeing me. Your name? He asked. Ryan. I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Ryan. He repeated my name so quietly that I felt my cheeks warm. Why? I had no idea. You need to go to a hospital, Franklin said, looking at the visible bruises on my arms. I'm okay. You're not okay. His voice was sharp but concerned at the same time. I didn't say anything, because the truth was I wasn't okay. I hadn't been okay for a very long time. Franklin typed something on his phone, then looked back at me. My car will take you home. Tomorrow morning, my driver will take you and Adan to a doctor. I can't afford. Did I ask you for money? Franklin raised an eyebrow. I went silent, because he was right. Franklin looked at Adan, then at me. You two need someone who can protect you. And I take that role very seriously. I didn't understand what he was trying to say. But when he looked at me that night, in that dark warehouse, I felt safe for the first time. And maybe something more. The bodyguards returned without Derek. One of them approached Franklin and whispered something in his ear. Franklin nodded, his expression unreadable. Then he turned his attention back to us. There's a car waiting outside, Franklin said. It will take you wherever you need to go. I hesitated. Everything about this situation felt surreal. Hours ago, I had been running for my life. Now I was standing in front of a stranger who had just made my biggest nightmare disappear. It felt too good to be true. An experience had taught me to be wary of things that seemed too good. Why are you helping us? I asked, finding my voice. Franklin's expression softened slightly. Because someone should have helped you a long time ago. Adan tugged at my shirt. Mummy, I like him. He's nice. Out of the mouths of children. Adan's instincts about people had always been better than mine. He had never liked Derek. Not from the beginning. I should have listened to him then. How did you know? I asked Franklin. About Derek. About what he was doing? I didn't, Franklin admitted. Not until your son told me. But I've seen enough in my life to recognize a predator when I see one. One of the bodyguards cleared his throat. Sir, we should move. The area isn't secure. Franklin nodded. Give me a moment. He looked down at Adan. Hey, champion. Take care of your mummy. Okay. Adan nodded seriously. I will. I'm brave now. I can see that, Franklin said with what might have been the hint of a smile. Franklin gestured toward the door. My men will make sure you get home safely. Lock your doors tonight, tomorrow. Things will be different. I wanted to ask what he meant by that, but Adan was tired and scared, and I needed to get him somewhere safe. Somewhere he could sleep without worrying about Derek breaking down the door. As we walked toward the exit, I glanced back at Franklin. He was watching us leave, his expression thoughtful. When our eyes met, something passed between us, an understanding. Maybe, or a promise. The car ride home was quiet. Adan fell asleep almost immediately, his head resting against my shoulder. The driver didn't try to make conversation, which I appreciated. I needed time to process everything that had happened. When we arrived at my apartment building, the driver got out and opened my door. Mr. Kingston has assigned someone to watch your building tonight, he said quietly. You won't see them, but they'll be there. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or more worried. Thank you. I carried Adan upstairs and tucked him into bed. He didn't wake up, exhausted from the fear and excitement of the evening. I sat beside him for a long time, just watching him sleep. He looked so peaceful now. So innocent. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. My heart raced thinking it might be Derek, but when I opened the message it was from someone else. Make sure you eat something and get some rest. Tomorrow will be better, Franklin. How did he have my number? But then again, Franklin Kingston probably had access to whatever information he wanted. That should have scared me more than it did. I typed back a simple response. Thank you for tonight. The reply came quickly. No need to thank me. Just stay safe. I set my phone down and leaned back against Adan's bed. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I could breathe. The constant fear that had been my companion for so long had loosened its grip, just a little. Franklin Kingston. The name echoed in my mind. A dangerous man by all accounts. Someone I should probably stay far away from. But he had saved us tonight. He had seen what Derek really was and had dealt it without hesitation. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know what Franklin's involvement in our lives would mean. But tonight I was grateful. Tonight Adan and I were safe. And that was enough. The next morning when Franklin's driver arrived, I honestly thought maybe last night had been a dream. But no. He came. A sleek black luxury car that made Adan so excited he forgot all about his toy cars. Mummy, look. That car is huge, Adan said, pressing his face against the window. I laughed. For the first time in days, the driver took us to a private clinic where the doctor examined everything: bruises, internal injuries, all of it. This was the first time I had received such thorough medical care. You'll be fine, Mr. Ryan, the doctor said with a reassuring smile. But you need rest. Proper rest. Rest? Living with Derek, rest meant another beating was coming. As we left the clinic, the driver handed me an envelope. "Mr. Kingston said to give you this." I opened it. There was money inside. A lot of money. And a note. "Take care of yourself and Adan. I'll come see you, Franklin." My hands shook. Why was this man doing all this? The next 2 days were peaceful. Adan and I stayed in the small apartment I had rented a few months ago, hiding from Derek. Adan was happy. He finally felt free. So did I. But on the third day, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Franklin was standing there. Black coat, sharp appearance, and a small bag in his hand. Adan immediately ran to him. "Mr. Franklin." Adan hugged him. Franklin picked him up and smiled. Actually smiled. I hadn't thought he was capable of smiling. "Hey champ, how's your mummy doing?" Franklin asked, looking at me. "He doesn't cry anymore," Adan said happily. Franklin put Adan down and came closer to me. "I need to talk to you. Alone." I sent Adan to watch TV and invited Franklin into the living room. He sat down, but his body language wasn't relaxed. He was tense. I gave Derek a small warning. Franklin began, "He won't come near you again. But, you need to be safe. Properly safe." "I am safe. Ryan." He said my name with such intensity that I fell silent. Men like Derek always come back. Whether they get warnings or not. He needs to be permanently kept away. I understood what he was implying. You're going to— "No," Franklin said quickly. "I don't hurt people without reason. But I will ensure he never enters your life again." I looked at him in disbelief. "Why? Why are you doing all this for me? You don't even know me." Franklin paused. Then he looked at me, and in that one look, there was something I couldn't name. "Because," he said slowly, "I saw you that night. You put your son behind you, not caring about your own life. And then, Adan told me how you cry every day, silently, so he won't notice." Tears filled my eyes. I tried to hold them back, but I couldn't. Franklin leaned forward and took my hands. "You need someone to protect you. And maybe, I need you too." I was stunned. "Why?" Franklin smiled. "Because ever since I saw Adan, and you, I felt like something was completed. Strange, isn't it?" I laughed through my tears. "Yes. Very strange. But even though it was strange, it felt right." The clinic visit had revealed more than just physical injuries. The doctor had asked careful questions about my mental health, about whether I felt safe, about my support system. I had answered honestly, or as honestly as I could, with Adan sitting in the waiting room. The doctor had been kind but firm. Recovery wasn't just about healing bruises. It was about healing everything Derek had broken. Franklin's visit felt different from the night at the warehouse. There, he had been all business, all danger. Here, in my small apartment with its secondhand furniture and Adan's toys scattered across the floor, he seemed almost human. Approachable. "The money you gave us," I started, unsure how to phrase it. "It's too much. I can't It's not charity," Franklin interrupted gently. "Consider it an investment." "In what?" "In making sure you and Adan have what you need. Food, rent, clothes, the basics that Derek kept from you." How did he know about that? How did he know Derek had controlled every dollar, every purchase, every aspect of my life? "I did some research," Franklin admitted, as if reading my thoughts. "Once I knew Derek's full name, it wasn't hard to find out the rest. The complaints that were filed and then mysteriously did. The hospital visits you made under fake names. The restraining order you tried to get but couldn't afford a lawyer for." I felt exposed. Vulnerable. All my secrets laid bare before this man I barely knew. "I'm not judging you," Franklin said softly. "I'm trying to understand, so I can help. Why do you care so much?" The question came out more desperately than I intended. Franklin was quiet for a moment. He looked toward the living room where Adan was laughing at something on TV. "I was 11 when my father started hitting my mother. I was too young to do anything about it. Too small, too weak. I had to watch it happen over and over until one day she just gave up. She stopped fighting back. Stopped trying to leave. My heart ached for him. Franklin, I'm sorry. She died when I was 15, he continued, his voice flat. Heart attack, they said. But I know better. She died because her spirit was already dead, long before her body gave out. I understood then. Adan reminded him of himself. And maybe I reminded him of his mother. When I saw Adan step forward last night, Franklin said, when I saw him try to protect you despite being so small, I saw myself. But this time I could do something. This time I could be the person who helps. Tears were streaming down my face now. You saved us. You really did. Franklin reached up and gently wiped away my tears. His touch was surprisingly tender. I want to keep you safe. Both of you, but only if you'll let me. I don't know how to trust anymore, I whispered. Derek broke that in me. Then don't trust me yet, Franklin said. Just let me prove myself. Let me show you that not everyone wants to hurt you. Adan came running back into the room, apparently bored with the TV. Mr. Franklin, are you staying for dinner? Franklin looked at me, asking permission without words. I nodded. I'd like that, champ, Franklin said to Adan. We ordered pizza, Adan's favorite. Franklin seemed genuinely interested in everything Adan had to say, asking him about school, his friends, his favorite superhero. Adan talked animatedly, his earlier trauma seemingly forgotten in the presence of someone who actually listened to him. As the evening wore on, I found myself relaxing. Really relaxing. The constant tension I carried in my shoulders began to ease. My guard, always up, always watching for danger, slowly lowered. Franklin noticed. You look different than you did last night. I feel different, I admitted. For the first time in years, I feel like maybe things could be okay. They will be, Franklin said with certainty. I'll make sure of it. When it was time for him to leave, Adan hugged him goodbye. Franklin crouched down to Adan's level. You take care of your mummy, okay? And if anyone bothers you, you tell me right away. I will, Adan promised solemnly. At the door, Franklin turned to me one last time. Get some rest tonight. Real rest. No one's coming through that door. My people are watching. Thank you, Franklin, for everything. He smiled. A real genuine smile that transformed his entire face. See you soon, Ryan. After he left, I locked the door and leaned against it. Adan was already heading to his room, tired but happy. I followed him, tucked him in, and for the first time in forever, neither of us was afraid of what tomorrow might bring. The following week proved Franklin had been right about Derek. My ex sent another message, threatening, violent, full of the same old poison. But this time I didn't feel the usual fear creeping up my spine. Because I knew Franklin was there. He had assigned people to watch outside my apartment. Silently, invisibly. I never saw them, but I knew they were present. Adan seemed more relaxed too. For the first time he was actually doing well in school, bringing home drawings and assignments with genuine smiles. One evening, Franklin invited us to dinner. Adan came along, practically bouncing with excitement. When we arrived at his penthouse, my son's eyes went wide with wonder. The space was enormous, luxurious in ways I had only seen in magazines. During dinner, Franklin talked extensively with Adan. He shared bits of his childhood, not much, just enough. But it was sufficient for me to understand that Franklin's life hadn't been easy either. What about your parents? I asked carefully, watching his expression. Franklin set down his glass. They're gone. Lost them when I was young. I'm sorry, I whispered. It's all right, Franklin replied, though pain flickered in his eyes. That's why when I saw Adan's courage, it reminded me of myself at that age. Later, Adan fell asleep on Franklin's couch. I covered him with a blanket, tucking it gently around his small frame. When I returned to the main area, Franklin was standing on the balcony, looking out at the city lights spread below like fallen stars. Do you ever miss it? I asked, joining him. Miss what? A normal life. One without constant danger. Franklin smiled slightly. I was never normal, Ryan. Not even as a child. But you should have had the chance to be. Franklin turned to look at me, something like surprise crossing his features. Perhaps no one had ever said that to him before. Ryan, he said slowly, I want to make you an offer. I waited, my heart starting to race. Move in with me, you and Adan. Here in this penthouse. You won't lack for anything. And I'll personally make certain that Derek or anyone else never hurts you again. I felt stunned. Franklin, this is not charity, he interrupted quickly. This is what I want. I want to see you safe. I want to see Adan happy. But why? I whispered. Why do you care so much? Franklin took a step closer. The distance between us shrank to almost nothing. Because, he said, his voice dropping low and serious, since I met you, I haven't been able to think about anything else. My heart pounded so hard I thought he must be able to hear it. I looked into his eyes and saw something I never expected, vulnerability behind all that power. I don't know what to say, I admitted. Then don't say anything, Franklin murmured, his hand coming up to touch my cheek. Just think about it, please. And in that moment, standing on that balcony under the city lights, I felt something more than safety for the first time. I felt wanted. The rest of the evening passed in a comfortable haze. Franklin gave me a tour of the penthouse, showing me the rooms that would be ours if we accepted his offer. Adan's potential bedroom was twice the size of our entire current apartment, with large windows that let in natural light, and a view of the park below. He could have his own play area, Franklin mentioned, gesturing to an empty corner. We could fill it with whatever he likes. Books, toys, art supplies. The master bedroom he showed me was elegant and spacious, decorated in neutral tones that felt calming. This would be yours, Franklin said. Complete privacy, your own bathroom, your own space. No pressure, no expectations. I appreciated that he was being clear about boundaries. After Derek, the idea of sharing space with someone felt terrifying. But Franklin seemed to understand that without me having to explain. Where's your room? I asked. Across the hall, he pointed. Close enough if you need anything, far enough to give you peace. We returned to the living room where Adan was still sleeping peacefully. Franklin sat down in an armchair and I took the couch, careful not to disturb my son. Can I ask you something? I ventured. Anything. Your business, the things people say about you. How much of it is true? Franklin didn't flinch from the question. Most of it, probably. I'm not going to lie to you, Ryan. I've done things that would horrify you. I've made choices that can't be undone. But I've also built something from nothing. I protect people who can't protect themselves. I maintain order in chaos. That sounds like you're justifying it. No. He shook his head. I'm explaining it. There's a difference. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. But I will promise you this. Whatever I am, whatever I do out there in the world, none of it will ever touch you or Adan. You'll be separate from all of that. Safe. I believed him. Maybe I was foolish too, but I did. I need time, I said finally. This is a big decision. I need to think about what's best for Adan. Take all the time you need. Franklin assured me. The offer stands, no expiration date. When it was time to leave, Franklin helped me carry a still sleeping Adan to the car. His driver took us home and I carried my son upstairs, my mind spinning with possibilities. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Franklin's offer, weighing the pros and cons. On one hand, it would solve so many problems. Financial security, physical safety, a better environment for Adan. On the other hand, it meant tying our lives to Franklin's in ways I couldn't fully predict. But then I thought about the alternative. Staying in our tiny apartment, always looking over my shoulder, always worried that Derek would find a way around Franklin's protection. Always struggling to make ends meet while trying to give Adan the childhood he deserved. The next morning, Adan woke up and immediately started talking about the penthouse. Mummy, can we live there? It's so big. And Mr. Franklin said I could have any toys I want. Did he now? I smiled at my son's enthusiasm. He's nice, Mummy. He's not like Derek. He doesn't yell or get angry. He listens when I talk. Out of the mouths of children. Adan's instincts had always been better than mine. I spent the day thinking, weighing options, trying to be rational about an emotional decision. By evening, I had made up my mind. I picked up my phone and called Franklin. I've been thinking about your offer, I said when he answered. And I want to discuss details. Boundaries, expectations, rules. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. Absolutely, Franklin agreed. Come over tomorrow, we'll talk through everything. Make sure you're comfortable with all of it. The next day, Franklin and I spent hours discussing the practical aspects of living together. He was surprisingly open to my suggestions and concerns. We agreed on house rules, privacy boundaries, financial arrangements that wouldn't make me feel like I was dependent on his charity. I want to contribute, I insisted. I'll get a job, Help with expenses. You don't need to. I need to, I interrupted firmly. For my own sense of self. I need to feel like I'm building something, not just accepting handouts. Franklin nodded, respecting my position. Then we'll find you something suitable. Something that works with Adan's schedule. By the end of our conversation, I felt more confident about the decision. This wasn't about running from one controlling situation into another. This was about building something new, something better, with clear boundaries and mutual respect. So, Franklin asked, what do you think? I took a deep breath. I think Adan and I would like to accept your offer. We'll move in with you. Franklin's entire face transformed with his smile. It was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that made him look years younger. You won't regret this, Ryan. I promise you that. I hoped he was right. I hoped I was making the right choice for both Adan and myself. But standing there, seeing the happiness in Franklin's expression, feeling the possibility of a new beginning, I thought maybe, just maybe, we all deserved this chance. 2 days later, I called Franklin with my final decision. My heart was racing, but I knew this was the right choice. Adan and I will move in with you, I said. Franklin was quiet for a few seconds. Then he spoke, his voice soft. Thank you, Ryan. We moved the following week. Adan was so excited that he showed Franklin each of his toys one by one. Franklin examined them seriously, treating each item like it mattered. And for Adan, maybe they really did. Franklin's penthouse transformed into a home. Adan had a large room where he could play, study, and sleep. My room was across from Franklin's, giving us both space and proximity at the same time. The first few days felt awkward. I wasn't sure how to behave, what was expected of me, but Franklin never made me feel uncomfortable. He was patient, understanding, giving me time to adjust. One night, after putting Adan to bed, I found Franklin in the living room working on his laptop. I sat down next to him. Don't you ever rest? Franklin smiled. Rest isn't really part of my job description. Still, I said, closing his laptop, you need to take breaks. Franklin looked at me, surprised. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. Are you giving me orders? Yes, I said confidently, smiling back. Franklin reached out and placed his hand on my head. You know, Ryan, since meeting you, my life feels different. Different how? I whispered. Better. Franklin admitted. For the first time, I actually want to come home. For the first time, I want to make someone happy. My heart did a strange flip. Franklin, I know this might be awkward, Franklin said, pulling his hand back, but I can't help feeling. I feel it too. I interrupted. Franklin stopped. What? All of this, I said, finally acknowledging my feelings. I feel it too. And I was scared, because I didn't think anyone would accept me like this. I have a young child. My past is such a mess. Franklin took my hand. Listen to me, Ryan. Your past doesn't matter. Adan doesn't matter. Not in that way. He's part of you, and I care about him just as much as I care about you. Tears filled my eyes. Really? Really? Franklin pulled me close, and this time he hugged me. Properly. Protectively. I rested my head against his chest, and for the first time, I cried. Really cried. Because these tears weren't from pain. They were tears of relief. Franklin kissed the top of my head, slowly. I'll always be here for you. For both of you. And that night, I finally accepted it. I was falling in love with Franklin. The days that followed established a new rhythm for our lives. Adan adapted quickly, as children do. He started calling Franklin by a special nickname that made both of us smile. Franklin would help him with homework, play games with him, and listen to his endless stories about school with genuine interest. I started looking for work, something flexible that would allow me to still be present for Adan. Franklin connected me with a friend who ran an art gallery, and I began working part-time helping with exhibitions and catalog design. It wasn't much, but it was mine, my own income, my own contribution. You didn't have to do this, Franklin said one evening when I proudly showed him my first paycheck. Yes, I did, I replied. For me, I need to feel like I'm building my own life, not just living in yours. This is our life now, Franklin corrected gently. But I understand what you mean, and I'm proud of you. Those words meant more than he probably realized. Derek had never been proud of me. He had only ever torn me down, made me feel worthless and dependent. Franklin's support felt like water to someone dying of thirst. One evening, I found Franklin on the balcony again, looking out at the city. I joined him, wrapping my arms around myself against the cool night air. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. "You," he answered honestly. "How different my life is now compared to a month ago." "Good different or bad different?" "The best different," Franklin said, turning to face me. "I never thought I'd have this. A home that feels like more than just a place to sleep. People who actually care whether I come back at night." "We do care," I said softly. "More than you know." Franklin's expression grew serious. "Ryan, I need you to understand something. My world is dangerous. There are people who would use you and Adan to get to me if they knew how much you mean to me. I've taken precautions, but there's always risk." "I know," I said. "I'm not naive about who you are or what you do." "And you're still here?" "I'm still here." Franklin reached out, his fingers brushing against my cheek. "I don't deserve you." "Maybe not," I teased gently. "But you're stuck with me anyway." He smiled, and then something shifted in the air between us. The playfulness faded, replaced by something more intense. Franklin's hand moved from my cheek to the back of my neck, his touch sending shivers down my spine. "Can I?" he started, then paused. "Can I kiss you?" The fact that he asked, that he made sure I was comfortable, meant everything. "Yes," I breathed. Franklin leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to change my mind. When his lips finally met mine, it was gentle, tentative. Nothing like the aggressive, demanding kisses I had known with Derek. This was not a demand. An invitation, not a conquest. I kissed him back, my hands coming up to rest on his chest. I could feel his heart beating as fast as mine. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing heavily. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," Franklin admitted. "I've wanted you to," I confessed. We stood there in the comfortable silence that had become familiar between us. The city lights twinkled below, and for the first time in years I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. "Stay close to me," Franklin murmured, pulling me into his arms. "I know we're taking things slow, and that's fine. But stay close. Let me take care of you." "Only if you let me take care of you too," I replied. Franklin chuckled. "Deal." Inside, I could hear Adan calling for me. Probably a bad dream or needing water. Normal parenting things that now felt safer, easier because I wasn't facing them alone anymore. "I should go check on him," I said reluctantly. "Go," Franklin encouraged. "I'll be here when you get back." As I headed inside, I glanced back at Franklin one more time. He was watching me with an expression I was beginning to recognize. A mixture of affection, protection, and something deeper that neither of us had quite named yet. That night, after Adan fell back asleep and I returned to my own room, I lay in bed thinking about how dramatically my life had changed. A month ago, I had been running through dark alleys, terrified and desperate. Now I was living in a beautiful home with a man who genuinely cared about my well-being and my son's happiness. I knew it wouldn't always be easy. Franklin's world came with complications and dangers I was still learning about, but for the first time in years I felt hopeful about the future. I felt like maybe, just maybe, happy endings were possible after all. The following months felt almost magical. Adan was thriving in school, earning top grades, and his teachers commented on how confident he had become. As for me, I was rediscovering myself. Living with Franklin, I had started painting again, something I used to love as a child, but Derek had made me stop. Franklin read Adan bedtime stories every night. Sometimes I would listen from outside the door, not wanting to interrupt their bonding time. Franklin's voice would soften when talking to Adan, becoming gentle in a way I'm sure most people never got to hear. And Adan had started calling him Papa Frank. One afternoon, I asked Franklin, "Doesn't it feel strange? Adan calling you Pop?" Franklin looked at me seriously. "Not at all. I want him to call me that. Because I want to be his father, Ryan." Truly, my heart melted. "Franklin, how are you so perfect?" Franklin laughed. "I'm far from perfect. I'm a dangerous man, Ryan. Don't forget that. But you're perfect for me," I said quietly. Franklin looked at me, and then he kissed me. For the first time. Slowly, carefully, as if confirming I was comfortable with it. I was comfortable. For the first time, I felt genuinely safe. Several weeks later, Derek made one final attempt at causing trouble. He tried targeting Franklin's businesses, legally since he couldn't approach physically anymore. But Franklin handled it smartly, quietly, and Derek finally understood that he had lost completely. When I asked Franklin, "What will Derek do now?" Franklin replied, "Nothing. He's signed documents withdrawing all custody claims for Adan. Officially, you have full custody, and he's legally bound to stay away from you permanently." I laughed with relief. "Thank you, Franklin. Truly." Franklin squeezed my hand. "I would do anything for you, Ryan." The following Sunday, Franklin took us to the beach. Adan was building sandcastles while Franklin sat beside me, watching us both. "Are you happy?" Franklin asked. "Yes," I answered without hesitation. "I'm incredibly happy." Franklin smiled. "Me too." Adan ran over to us, holding a shell in his small hand. "Mummy, Papa Frank, look. This is a gift for you." Franklin picked him up lovingly. "Thank you, champ. This is the best gift ever." Adan giggled and hugged me. I laughed too. Franklin wrapped his arms around both of us. And in that moment, on the beach, surrounded by the sound of waves, I finally realized something important. This was my family. This was my home. And no matter how dangerous Franklin's work might be, I knew he would always come back for us. He would always be there for Adan. Because Franklin wasn't just a crime boss. He was ours, and we were his. The beach day became a turning point for us. Watching Adan play freely, without fear shadowing his every move, made me realize how far we had all come. Franklin had bought Adan a kite, and my son spent hours running across the sand, laughing as the colorful fabric soared above him. "He's a different child than the one I met that night," Franklin observed. "We both are," I agreed. "Different people entirely." Franklin reached over and took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I never imagined my life could feel like this. Complete." "Neither did I," I admitted. "After Derek, I thought I was broken. Unfixable." "You were never broken," Franklin said firmly. "You were surviving. There's a difference." Later that evening, back at the penthouse, Adan fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from his day at the beach. Franklin and I sat together on the couch, a comfortable silence between us. "I have something to tell you," Franklin said eventually. My heart skipped. "What is it?" "I've been restructuring some of my business operations, making things more legitimate, stepping back from the riskier ventures. It's going to take time, but I want to build something different. Something safer." "Why?" I asked, though I thought I knew the answer. "Because of you and Adan," Franklin said simply. "I want to be around for the long term. I want to see him grow up, graduate, have his own life. I want to be there for all of it." Tears pricked my eyes. "That means everything to me. I need you to know that I'm serious about us," Franklin continued. "This isn't temporary. This isn't just convenience or protection. I love you, Ryan. I love Adan. You're my family now." There it was. The words we had been dancing around for months. "I love you too," I whispered. "I think I have for a while now, but I was too scared to admit it." Franklin pulled me close, and we sat there holding each other as the city lights began to twinkle outside the windows. Everything felt right in a way I had never experienced before. The months that followed brought their own challenges. Franklin's business dealings occasionally required his attention at odd hours. There were phone calls he had to take in private, meetings I wasn't privy to. But he always came home. He always made time for us. I continued working at the gallery, eventually getting promoted to assistant curator. My boss praised my eye for composition and my ability to connect with artists. I was building a career, something that was mine. Adan excelled in everything he tried. He joined the school soccer team, and Franklin never missed a game, cheering louder than any other parent. Adan started taking art classes, inspired by my painting. Franklin proudly displayed every piece Adan created throughout the penthouse. One evening, 6 months after we had moved in, Franklin came home with a large envelope. "I have something for you," he said, handing it to me. Inside were legal documents. Adoption papers. "I want to officially adopt Adan," Franklin explained. "If you're comfortable with that. If he is." My hands shook as I read through the papers. "Have you talked to him about this?" Not yet. I wanted to ask you first. We called Adan into the room and explained what adoption meant. My son's eyes grew wide. So you'd really be my papa? Forever? Forever, Franklin confirmed. Adan threw his arms around Franklin's neck. Yes. I want that. The three of us held each other and I felt tears of joy streaming down my face. This was real. This was happening. We were becoming an official family. The adoption process took several months, involving interviews, home visits, and paperwork. But eventually, the day came when we stood in front of a judge, who declared Franklin legally Adan's father. Adan was so excited he could barely sit still. That night we had a celebration dinner. Just the three of us in our home, laughing and making plans for the future. Franklin had ordered Adan's favorite cake and we sang and made wishes. What did you wish for? I asked Adan as he blew out his candles. I can't tell you or it won't come true, he said seriously. Then he grinned. But I think it already did. After Adan went to bed, Franklin and I returned to the balcony where we had shared our first kiss months ago. Are you happy? I asked, echoing his question from the beach. Happier than I ever thought possible, Franklin replied. You and Adan, you've given me something I didn't know I was missing. A family, I said. A home, Franklin corrected. A reason to be better than I was. I leaned against him, feeling safe and loved. The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities and promise. There would be challenges ahead. There always were. But we would face them together as a family. Derek was finally just a bad memory, fading further into the past with each happy day. The fear that had defined my life for so long had been replaced with hope, love, and joy. Franklin kissed my forehead. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for saving us, I replied. But we both knew the truth. We had saved each other.